by not signing, I mean, what happened in Edo? People, we try the best we can, to ensure that if people have any anxieties, if they have issues and they approach the peace committee, we'll try to deal with those issues. That's why we are, the IG was, the IG is present, INEC is present. And as I said, it's a pity, but we don't, we're not going to take anybody to court for not signing the peace accord. The only thing it does to you as a candidate is that it sends the wrong signal, which can very easily be exploited by the opposition.
Sending the wrong signal there, Bishop Hassan Kuka there. And of course, it's coming on the wings of this situation where the PDP in Edo State have refused to sign that peace accord until then their demands are met. And it's a conversation that's ongoing. And he says it sends the wrong message. Now, making that distinction is not a constitutional thing. It is generally a moral clause. And bringing that conversation amongst other conversations to the fore is my guest today, Mr. Laolu Akande, former presidential media aide and host of Inside Sources right here on Channels Television. It's nice to have you on the program.
Good to see you again, Kela. Good morning.
So let's talk about the wrong message that Bishop Kuka is talking about.
Yeah, well, so I think Bishop Matthew Kuka is right to the extent that it is ideal for PDP to sign. To have the governor himself come out and say, well, look, we may not sign this, and actually they actually refused to sign it eventually. That's quite worrisome. However, I think the greater point here is that the PDP have laid out specific charges against the Inspector General of Police. They said they are arresting their chieftains, they want to frustrate the PDP in the elections. And then the IGP has also responded and said, oh, no, the folks that we arrested are the ones that we suspected may have been involved in the murder of a police officer. And that's a serious thing. Now, what Nigerians expect the National Committee of Mr. Father Kuka and the former president to do is to balance the issues. So, yes, the police, in my view, has the right to arrest a suspect and investigate and prosecute. But they don't have a right to determine when to charge the suspects.
Is it timing suspect?
No, the Constitution says, sets the limit. Okay, so I expected the National Peace Committee to be able to say that, okay, look, follow the Constitution, investigate those people, charge them to court. The implication of that is the police retains the arbitrary power to hold those suspects indefinitely, then the police has taken a side in an election that is just less than 1 week to go. That decision ought to be taken by a court. So the police is supposed to charge them and take them to court and let a judge be the one to determine whether they get bail
or they stay incarcerated.
Not. Yeah. Now that the police has decided to hold them without charging them to court, the police is giving us a rule of the police. But what we subscribe to as a nation is the rule of law. So yes, the police has a right to arrest those guys. It's a very grievous thing to kill a policeman by every standard, and we don't accept that. But the police must also ensure that they are seen to be fair. Otherwise, the impression is being created that they are trying to frustrate PDP, and it will affect the outcome of the election, one way or the other. It will affect the image of the police. So the right thing to do for the police is to quickly charge them to court and let a judge come and say, okay, I've looked at the issues, these people have to remain in detention. Fine. But for the police to be the one to arrest them and be the one to decide when they're going to be charged, and then hold them until after the election, if that's the plan, that's not fair at all.
It's a very interesting dynamic that's cast a very dark shadow on the conduct of these elections. I was thinking about people who are going to cover the elections. There's in fact, looking at the map that we saw from Yaga, Africa, the entire, it almost feels like the entire thing is red. You know, where there are threats of violence in many parts of the
Right.
state.
Yeah.
And then the rhetoric we're hearing, do or die. If they do, we will die. If
Yeah,
we
well.
die, they will do. And all of these conversations that are coming out. In fact, someone sent me a message one time from someone in the Edo State, and he said, you cannot be pressing my neck and be telling me to sign peace accord. You can't hold my neck and then tell me to shake you with the other hand.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So with these sorts of narratives going around and the real fear of violence, do you think this will affect voter turnout? Because also, over the years, we've seen more people register to vote,
Right.
but the number of people
people that come
coming
out.
out to vote keeps reducing in Edo State over the years. Is this going to affect in any way how people come out to cast their votes?
Well, you know, I mean, we hope that as a nation we try to take proactive measures, especially led by INEC, of how to really get the people to have confidence, for the confidence of the people to rise in our electoral process. It's still very, very low, you know, and of course, we all know that there are several reasons. Now, these circumstances has added to the reason why people may not want to vote. Like I said, yes, I would wish that Governor Baseki can find a way to tone down his rhetoric. He's the governor. So besides the fact that he's the leader of the party in the state, and he does have a responsibility to his party, he also has a responsibility to maintain the peace. Now, his argument is that, okay, yes, I want to maintain the peace, but the police is not trying to maintain the peace. The point is that everybody should do their own part. He should try to tone down the rhetoric. All of them in APC, PDP, LP, anybody that is an important player in all of these things should try to tone down the rhetoric. And the police should also try to do things according to law. Very important. I mean, all of these things together inspire the confidence. And like you said, there's a lot of threat of violence, you know, already, which is very sad. It's very sad. And we need to try to find a way to work around it. And I thought, you know, one of the things that the National Peace Committee ought to do, which they have not done, and the National Peace Committee is an illustrious institution, and we have a lot of regard for them. But they also have to be able to speak up. They have to find a way to speak truth to power, to say, okay, yes, police, you can arrest them, you have the powers, but please, can you do it properly? And then they need to say that publicly, because when it is said publicly, it constrains the police. It constrains them, because it's the law that we're talking about. You know, so these are some of the things that we need to get used to doing. It's not just that, oh, no, we don't want to say that in the public so that they don't get embarrassed. Why not? It's about inspiring the confidence of the of the people, even in the police and in the process. That is why these things must play out in the public, where everybody that is paying attention can follow.
It's actually bringing me to the concept of governance in Edo State, because while all of these political actors and, you know, while this back and forth keeps going on, the election is just around the corner.
Yeah,
and then there's the real issue of governance in Edo State and what the Edo people need at this point in time, apart from promises and shouting all over the place and dancing from one city to the other. There is the real issue of governance in Edo State. For the major players, it looks like it's going to be a tripod race. It looks like it's going to be a 3-foot race. So for those who are spearheading these campaigns and jostling for Sadebe Avenue, what should they be having at the back of their minds? For those who really want to be in power, to govern, and bring Edo people to a new level of development, what is the one thing, in your view, that they should be having at the back of their mind?
Well, it's, you know, so do you mean what they should be saying, you know?
What they should have at the back of their minds, or what they should be saying? What's the major issue with governance, and what should they be focusing on as they jostle?
Exactly, is to deliver welfare and safety, the well-being, the progress, the development of the state, which is the people. You know, and that is why it is important for us, you know, to be sure that the kind of narrative that we put out in the public are the ones that, at the end of the day, takes care of the interest of the people, that takes care of the fact that, look, this is all about the people. Now, to a very large extent, the way our politicians play the game is such that the interest of the people is normally the last thing on the consideration, which is sad. It's sad, So, and that's why you see a lot of flexing of money. Look, to the credit of President Goodluck Jonathan in this country, he did say that for him, the blood of a Nigerian his quest to win an election doesn't equate to the life of a Nigerian. For somebody to lose their life, that is a commendable rhetoric, and it's the kind of things that we need from the leaders, the politicians, to show that in all they do and in all they say, the ultimate interest is about the people. We have government because government is set up to protect and to ensure that the people prosper.
Let's go to a place where the people are not prospering right now, which is Maiduguri in Borno State.
Sad.
I mean, this skyline that we're about to show you right now basically paints the picture. Let us just understand exactly what is happening in Borno, in Maiduguri. We keep hearing that the water is receding, people are about to, everyone's coming back, but the ripple effects of floods, I keep trying to talk about health issues that come with floods. Most people don't realize that the major problem is not just the loss of property. It's actually the health implications. The entire water source will be polluted. And then we have outbreaks that come up after flooding. And those are the bigger issues in my mind. You talked about governance and the people. I've been trying to find out, who dropped the ball. Who dropped the ball here? And personally, I don't want this Maiduguri flooding to go like most floods. The flood came, we all got angry, everyone came on channels and shouted, and then after that, everybody moved on. We're not going to move on. I want to be able to get the who dropped the ball here and to stop it from happening in other parts of the country. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I like the points you made, in introducing this, that look, and that is where a lot of us are not paying attention to. There are a lot of health challenges, very dangerous, because the suspicion and the likelihood is that the water system
will be polluted.
Have been polluted and contaminated. And that's a serious problem, because, the water, we know where the water comes from. The flood has flooded everywhere or most of the areas. So we need to hear a little bit more from the government that, okay, so what is happening about that? Our fears true, or, has there been some mitigation that has taken place or that is taking place? That is such a critical element, because the waters can recede, people can go back to their normal life, and then you have an outbreak easily. Because, I think some reports say that more than half of Maiduguri at a point was submerged. And the dam, was breached, and the dam is connected to the water system. So a lot of potential health hazards may be in the process. So it would be good to hear more, both from the Federal Ministry of Health, and I think the minister seemed to be speaking about some of these, and also the State Ministry of Health, NEMA, all the people involved. What are the mitigations that are being put in place to prevent what might even be much more dangerous to livelihood? Because the water that people drink seems to have been compromised. So I think that is a very important thing that all of us should pay attention to. But I think, we should also say that the president, did a very good thing. In most instances, people will say, oh, the vice president has been there. The president was away when this happened, and then he came back.
And went there.
And then when his very first official duty returning is to go there. That's very commendable. And he did announce that there's going to be a relief fund. But we want the president to do more, to make sure that this flooding thing is not something, just like you said, that we just sit back, we make noise when it happens this year, we sit back, it happens another 2 years.
Every year.
Every
year. And then they come to the villa. At least me and you. Over the years, we've seen it. They come, flood.
And
my
state,
then
the money
billions lost.
Money is disbursed.
Give me money. They give money, and that's it.
So it's important, we will hold the president to try and see, and the vice president said there is a comprehensive plan. We haven't heard about it, but he did promise. It's important for the president to ensure that actually happens. And I think one of the things that we should include in that comprehensive strategy against the flooding is a national flooding insurance. We don't pay a lot of attention to insurance.
What's this
in Nigeria.
ecological fund?
Well, so if that is part of it, but it has to be clearly stated, and NEMA has to play a role. Right now, the ecological fund is for quite a lot of things, but I see that, yes, that may be a resource towards the premium of a national flood insurance.
Yeah.
But we need to have in this country, and I'm surprised that even insurance experts are not speaking out. I'm surprised that the National Insurance Commission has said nothing. It's important. We know that these things happen. People have to be protected. Lives have to be protected. Properties have to be protected. Valuables, look at what happened even in the hospitals. Even the hospitals and all their machines and all their equipments were all damaged.
Yeah.
Have those things been insured? So it's important to have an insurance policy that includes not just government, which is partly ecological fund, partly, but not even mainly, but also the private sector, in a way that when this happens next, at least people can have something to fall back on.
So let's move on to the biggest story in the
the
this story and the Maiduguri story and Edo.
Yeah.
Three of them are jostling for which one is
true.
the top story.
True.
For me, Maiduguri is the biggest story because these are the lives of our brothers and
lives
sisters.
immediately. True.
Well, let's move on to Dangote and the NNPC help. So, what was the point? At least that's one of the questions I keep seeing online. What was the point?
Okay.
If we're still here, and questions. Why does it cost more for us to get fuel locally than it does to import it? I thought the reason why it was so expensive was because there were all these costs at the port, at the bringing it down and the carrying it everywhere. So what happened? What's the story here? And of course we're seeing it unravel in a way that we never saw coming. I didn't see it coming out this way where
Exactly.
there'll be back and forth statements and one thing or the other. So let's look at that right now. What's going on and what's the future?
Okay, so if we recall what some of the experts in the industry have been saying to us, they've been hinting that, look, ultimately what the Dangote refinery is going to do essentially is to ensure our energy security. Namely, that ultimately there will be fuel, there will be PMS here in this country.
Okay.
But what most people are not paying attention to, or what is not being said publicly, is that Dangote refinery is, quote unquote, bad business for the system. The Dangote refinery is bad business for NNPCL and the system of corruption.
Yeah, so there's a system that has been going on for a while.
Yeah, because
the entrance of Dangote into it is bad for that business.
It's bad, and that is why
people don't want to talk about that.
And that's why I'm saying it. That look, we need to understand, and this is not being personal at all. Because we have friends everywhere. We have friends in Dangote. We have friends in NNPC. But what is happening essentially is that what NNPC, a major aspect of NNPCL's business is this idea of importing refined petroleum. Is a big deal in NNPCL. Big business. Dangote comes, says, you know what? You don't have to do that. I have it here. There are a lot of interests that are staked. And that's the only reason why we are having this kind of drama. It's important for Nigerians to understand this. Dangote has messed up a lot of stake. There are vested interests that benefit, wittingly or unwittingly, rightly or wrongly, in the current system where NNPC is the only sole importer of refined for how many years, Kayla? Decades,
yes.
At least 2 to 3 decades. So that is the unspoken story. That's the unspoken reality.
No, it's spoken. We're speaking about it. so if it's spoiling their business, are they trying to, these forces that you're mentioning, are they trying to stifle his business, or are they trying to negotiate some way that they still make the same amount of money, but not maybe through the means that they were using before? Is that what's going on?
Partly, and it's going to be difficult, because guess what? Somebody called Aliko Dangote put down his own money to build this refinery.
$20 billion.
And he has to recoup is investment. So, and that's why you see, oh, first of all, NNDPR comes out and say, oh, it's substandard. The guy comes out and shows us that it's actually the best quality in the world that we are producing. Made a mess of NNDPR. And it's interesting that those guys don't seem to understand that for somebody to be an effective regulator, your credibility is the most important thing. Their credibility, NNDPR, is messed up, totally, completely. And they're still there. I mean, I'm surprised that Mr. President has not actually taken up this matter so that you can restore some confidence in the regulatory process. The regulatory process is a total complete. I mean, if you come out and say, "Oh, look, their product is poor," but they give you a product, even if not the same stuff, that is one of the best in the world when they did it.
I mean, so, let's hold your thoughts on NNDPRA for a minute, but let's bring in Ayo. Ayo has a few questions for you.
Well, I'm going to stay a little bit on the fact of the Dangote refinery, the coming on stream of the Dangote refinery being bad business for some people. Well, Mr. Akande, you would recognize or you'd remember that we've had that kind of bad business for some people before. The liberalization and deregulation of the telecom sector was one such. NITEL held sway the way NNPC held sway. We were able to swim that tide. What are your thoughts on how we swim this tide going forward? Don't forget, Dangote refinery is not the only one in the country. We have Watersmith, we have a number of other refineries like that in the country. So if we were able to swim the telecom tide, what do you suggest this time around?
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Ayo, for that important reminder that, we have passed through this road before. My view is that for some reason, Mr. President is still withholding the big stick. My view is that he will have to, and I'm sure that there may be information that is open to him that we don't have, But I think ultimately, the president is going to have to weigh in on this matter, in the public interest. And I think we are getting close to that. Don't forget that after NNDPR actually came out and said, oh, look, I mean, the Dangote refinery product is substandard and all of that. We are not even sure that the refinery is complete. After some time, there was a meeting that was compelled by the presidency where Aliko Dangote and the NNDPR and NNPC people sat together and sorted out the issues. So I am sure that it will get to the point, and we are getting to the point where the president is going to have to wield the big stick. And we have said it over and again. The president needs to act just like he did for CBN. He needs to do the same thing in NNPCL and NNDPR. He has to, we want to know what is really happening. The whole place is opaque. We don't have any information. They give us information today. Tomorrow, the information is contradicted by themselves.
Well, I'm thankful.
It's not even that,
yeah. Well, Mr. Akande, apologies for butting in. I'm thankful that you understand the dynamics of information management better than those of us who are on the outside, because, you've been in the presidency. You know how difficult it can be or not to get some of this information out sometimes. It's also understandable, perhaps, that the NNPCL might be managing its own information in a way, because one way or the other, you may want to speak to that. Perhaps the NNPCL is some kind of rescue organization, so to speak, for successive governments over time. Because on the one hand, because we're in a democracy, government doesn't want to lose face with the people, consequently doesn't want the price of fuel to be too high for the people to be able to afford, for which reason maybe NNPC had to step in quite a number of times. But one of the statements that Mr. Dangote mentioned was that, look, with the coming on stream of the Dangote refinery supplying PMS in country, technically in country, it means that we'll be able to track the number of liters that we need in the country on a daily basis. If that is the bad business, who are the beneficiaries? Would it be the NNPCL, who is also a stakeholder in Dangote refinery, or some importers working for the NNPCL on this matter? Who else is the beneficiary or the loser in this new arrangement?
Yeah, I mean, very, very good point, Ayo. So that it's the president and the president alone, actually, that can sort that matter out for us. You know, there's no point for us here to conjecture and say, oh, this and this and this and that. But to the extent that NNPCL was the sole importer, NNPCL never tells anyone that this is the amount of, when they were doing the swap, that this is the amount of crude that we send out to receive the amount of refined fuel to, at this exchange rate. Nobody knows. Hayo, we've never been told that. So we have no idea, except that it is clear to anybody that is taking a keen look that this is a disruption. Dangote refinery is a significant disruption to whatever might have been going on there, and the people who are interested don't like what is happening. Look at what even happened during the Buhari administration. The Federal Executive Council, FEC, decided that NNPC must have 20% of Dangote refinery. It's because, you know, there was a clear understanding that, oh, look, this is major, and we need to put some government interest there in the interest of the public. That was why it was decided at 20%. Well, guess what happened? NNPCL, on their own, without any information being told, given to us, reduced the percent, the stake from, I think, 7% or so. Who does that? Was there a FEC meeting that changed that decision for 20%? How was it? A lot of
I think a lot of the
questions.
things that you're saying right now basically breaks that myth, because for many people, you know, we say, oh, Mele Kyari, oh, look at what they're doing. And for some people, they don't do anything without the president knowing. Are you saying it is possible that NNPC will take decisions without the minister, who is the president, knowing?
Well, look, so it's actually a catch-22 situation, and we are a bit confused about what exactly we want. So when NNPC was just NNPC, the minister, can give directives. But now that it's NNPCL under the PIA, it's actually the board that ought to run this stuff. And government is the one that picks the board.
Well, we do have to wrap up there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mr. Laolu Akande, former presidential media aide, for being with us on the program, and host of Inside Sources. What's happening?
Well, so this week we're going to be talking to people in the private sector.
Private sector.
To talk about what is the future of business in Nigeria.
All right, looking forward to that. We do have a few messages here. Tom Egbele says it's very risky for Nigeria through the NNPCL to pry into the affairs of private enterprises. Tom goes on to say, like it's doing Dangote refinery, the NNPCL ought to concentrate on making its own refineries to work, although there is no absolute free market economy in the world. And for the rest of you, Professor Enakena and Festus, we can see your messages as well. Thank you all very much for being with us on the program. Have a great day ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Do have a profitable one.